Hey guys, tonight we take our very first steps through Eden, and spoiler alert, this perfect garden comes with no Wi-Fi, no exit signs, and a lot of responsibilities you didn't sign up for. Picture this, your eyes flutter open for the very first time. You're lying on soft, dew-covered grass. There's a breeze so gentle, it feels like nature whispering, "Welcome." You sit up and blink at the sunlight filtering through leaves the size of beach towels. Birds are singing, harmonizing actually, and none of them sound annoying. That's how you know this is paradise. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, tell me in the comments what city are you listening from, and what time is it right now. Now dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You stand up, wobbly, like a baby giraffe, and start looking around. Trees tower above you, dripping with fruit that basically glow. There's a mango so ripe, it's practically flirting with you. A stream trickles nearby, so clear you can see the fish waving at you. Or maybe you're hallucinating from being just born. Who knows? "Welcome," a voice says. Not booming or scary, just warm. Like someone who's been expecting you. It's God. No beard, no sandals. Just presence. You can't see him, but you feel him, like sunlight on your skin. His first words, not exactly small talk. "You're in Eden. This place, I made it for you." Which is kind of flattering, right? Until he starts giving instructions. Suddenly, it's like being hired for a job you didn't apply for. This tree over here, don't eat from it. You look at the tree of knowledge. It's stunning. Juicy looking fruit, Instagrammable branches, a total centerpiece. And you're being told, look, but don't touch. You try to play it cool, nod, smile, but in your head, you're already plotting a mental map. Don't worry, we'll get to that later. God gives you the grand tour. There's a lion sunbathing next to a lamb, a turtle teaching a squirrel how to swim, and in the distance, a mountain glowing gold. No idea why. It just is. You get a garden, all to yourself, no rent, no bills, but also no one to talk to, not even a goat, which is wild, because the place is literally packed with life. You're surrounded by beauty, and yet you feel weirdly solo. Fun fact, some scholars believe this early narrative reflects the tension between freedom and responsibility. You're free, but not entirely. Eden has rules, and apparently you're the test case. Later, you find a small stone bench next to a fig tree, and sit. You've been alive maybe 3 hours, and already you're wondering about stuff like meaning, purpose, and whether you're allowed to nap. Suddenly, a bird flies straight at your face. You duck, but it hovers and lands on your knee. It chirps once, like a Morse code dot, and flaps off. You laugh, or well, make a sound close enough to laughter that even the trees seem to join in. Academic side note, the Hebrew word for Eden means delight, but scholars debate whether it's meant to be literal or symbolic. Some say it represents innocence. Others think it's more about idealized balance. What no one mentions is how awkward it is being the only human in paradise. Night comes quickly here, like someone flipped a cosmic switch. You lie back on the grass and stare up. The stars blink on, one by one. No pollution, no light haze, just galaxy after galaxy, putting on a light show just for you. You feel small, but in a cozy way. Like you're meant to be here, like you're part of something ancient and alive. Still, a part of you whispers, is this really it? Is there more? Don't worry, that question, it's about to get answered in the weirdest possible way. So you've barely gotten used to the concept of walking, and now you're told it's time to name everything. Every living creature, God says, with a calm that somehow makes it worse. You pause. Everything? Like insects? Birds? things that haven't even evolved legs yet. You try to stall. Do they already have names? You ask hopefully. Nope, God replies. That's your job. And just like that, you've become the world's first taxonomist. No training, no pen, not even a post-it note. You walk out into the garden the next morning, rubbing sleep from your eyes, only to find a full-on animal parade waiting. There's a line, as if someone handed out appointment times. First up, a long-necked spotted giant walks up, graceful, curious, a bit sassy. You stare. Giraffe, you blurt out. It just feels right. Next comes a snuffly, round creature with the personality of a tired uncle. Hippopotamus, you say, as it blinks slowly. It snorts in approval. Fun fact, the act of naming in ancient cultures wasn't just about labels, it was about identity. To name something was to understand it, maybe even control it. No pressure. Soon, you're in a rhythm. Ostrich, kangaroo, platypus. You say that one and pause, feeling like it might be a joke, but the creature just waddles away, unbothered. A tiny bird lands on your shoulder, chirping at a rapid pace. You call it sparrow. A hairy, tusked creature stomps in next. You name it boar, and then quickly get out of the way as it charges a bush. The diversity is overwhelming. You name things that hop, slither, fly, squeak, howl, purr, roar, and burp. One particularly indecisive animal changes color mid-introduction. You stare, chameleon, you mutter, it winks at you. At one point, something that looks like a tree with legs anneals past, and you don't even bother asking. Sloth, you sigh, leaning against a rock. By mid-afternoon, you're exhausted. Your brain feels like it's doing yoga. You lie back in the grass, muttering possible names to the clouds. Fluffalo. No. Sky dog. Too poetic. God checks in. Having fun? You nod. Do I get to name everything? He laughs. Only the living ones. You feel clever, so technically I should name you too. A silence. You cough. Kidding, obviously. Quick sidebar. Some theologians suggest this moment, the naming of the animals, marks the beginning of human consciousness, not just observation, but reflection. You're not just cataloging, you're relating, but something nags at you. You're naming two of each kind, male and female, always two. They look at each other, playfully nudge, chase, nuzzle. You have no one to nuzzle. You name a fox, it runs off with its partner. You name a dove, it curls next to another dove. You name a wolf, and even it has someone to howl with. As the sun sets, your chest tightens just a little. You've seen every creature, named them all, given identity to the whole animal kingdom. And still, not a single one looked back at you like you were their person. You thought naming animals would distract you from that gnawing feeling in your chest. Spoiler, it didn't. It's the fourth day since you woke up, and the silence is louder than ever. The birds still sing. Yes, the wind still rustles the leaves, but none of it answers back. You talk to a parrot, it mimics you, which is cute until you realize it's just echoing, not listening. You lie on the grass and trace clouds. You invent a game where you rank fruit by how likely they are to roll downhill. Mango, high risk. Banana, surprisingly stable. Pomegranate, chaos in orb form. But the truth? You're bored. Fun fact, even in ancient Hebrew storytelling, there's this moment of tension between external perfection and internal emptiness. Eden has no death, no pain, no bills, but also no other, no one to share the mangoes with. God checks in again. You pretend to be busy naming a beetle. He sees through it. You look unsettled, he says. I'm fine, you lie. He waits. You crack. It's just everyone has someone. The lions have lionesses. The elephants have each other. Even the flamingos come in pairs. God nods, like he already knew this would happen. It's not good for man to be alone. You blink. Wait. Was that an admission? Academic whisper. Some scholars argue that this is the only moment in the creation narrative where God declares something not good. That's right. You lying around bored out of your mind, historically significant. That night, you dream for the first time. It's weird. Your dreams are all abstract shapes and distant sounds. Someone laughing, someone calling your name. But when you wake up, still alone, you start talking to the stars. If you're intelligent, blink twice. The stars do not blink. Rude. On day 6, you build a hammock between 2 trees. It's decent. One side keeps sliding down. You try to tie a vine around your waist, and the tree, like a seatbelt, almost works, until a squirrel steals your rope. You sigh. Great. Even the squirrels have drama. That evening, you walk by the river and see your reflection. For the first time, you really look at yourself. Brown eyes, broad shoulders, dirt under your fingernails. You are alive, but incomplete. You speak to your own reflection. Are we supposed to be like this, just one of us? And the reflection, of course, says nothing. God doesn't speak that night, but the stars feel heavier. The sky feels full of waiting. The loneliness is no longer a passing thought. It's a pulse, a rhythm, something steady and quiet, but always there. Until one day, you wake up and something is different. But that's a story for tomorrow. The birds are still chirping, but there's a stillness in the air that wasn't there yesterday. The trees sway slower. Even the sky seems to hold its breath. You stretch, rub your eyes, and prepare to face another day of trying to invent games for one. But God's voice interrupts your thoughts. Lie down. You blink. Sorry, what? Lie down. Trust me. Now, when the creator of the universe says trust me, you don't exactly argue. So you lie down, arms at your sides, heart pounding, with that weird mix of curiosity and suspicion. Then everything goes black. Fun fact, in the original Hebrew, the word used here is tadamah, often translated as deep sleep, not a nap, not a quick doze. We're talking divine, anesthesia level unconsciousness. Think shutdown system for upgrades kind of sleep. You dream, but this time, it's vivid. You're floating, not flying, not falling, just suspended. You feel warm, safe. You see flashes of stars, oceans, laughter, and something you can't name but miss deeply. Something just beyond memory. Meanwhile, back in reality, God performs the first surgery. No scalpels, no assistance, just intention and perfection. He reaches into your side and removes a rib. Academic side note, scholars debate whether it was an actual rib or symbolic of shared essence. Some say it implies equality. Same stuff, different design. Others argue it's poetic language for relational balance. No one mentions how weird it is to just wake up with one less bone. And that's what happens. You wake up feeling odd. There's a dull ache in your side. You sit up slowly. Something is different. Then you hear it. Breathing, not yours. You turn, and time folds. There, standing under a fig tree, sunlight dancing through her hair, fingers brushing the leaves with the curiosity of someone meeting the world for the first time. She turns, and everything else disappears. No, seriously. The birds, the breeze, the whole soundtrack gone. You hear your own heartbeat in your ears, and maybe a faint whoosh as your brain tries to reboot. She looks at you. You stare, mouth half open, the first Homo sapiens to be completely dumbfounded. And in that moment, something ancient sparks in you. Not just awe, not just recognition, connection.
God.
You stand up, slowly, approach carefully, like she might vanish if you blink too hard. She doesn't run, she smiles. Your voice, barely a whisper, finally finds words. This one is bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. Fun fact, that's the first recorded love poem in human history. And yes, it was delivered after waking up groggy and missing a rib. Romance has always been weird. God doesn't say anything. He just steps back, like an artist admiring his completed work. The moment stretches. Two humans, one breath, one story beginning. And for the first time ever, you're not alone. You're still standing there, blinking slowly, trying to decide whether you should say something profound or just not drool. She tilts her head slightly, curious. You realize she doesn't look scared, not confused, just interested, which, let's be honest, is already more than you'd hoped for. You clear your throat. Hi. She raises an eyebrow. Okay, not the most poetic start, you mutter. But then it comes to you, not as a rehearsed line, but something primal, ancient. You look at her, heart hammering, and say the words that somehow feel like they've always existed. This is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. Boom. Biblical history made. Fun fact, that line, it's the first recorded human sentence directed at another human, not just words, recognition. You see her, and in her, you see yourself. The missing part, the echo. She smiles, then giggles. You didn't expect giggling, but there it is. Bright, unfiltered, completely genuine. You laugh too, a sound that feels new in your own mouth, like your throat had been saving it for this exact moment. She steps closer, eyes scanning your face, then your hand, then your foot. What do we do now, she asks. You blink. I have a hammock? She laughs again. What's a hammock? Oh, it's like a leaf trap you lay in. Sort of. Why would you trap yourself? Honestly, I ask myself that every day. Academic whisper. Scholars note the sudden tonal shift here. Scripture moves from narrative to poetry, marking a pivot point. It's not just creation anymore. It's relationship, and apparently also awkward small talk. You both walk together through the garden. She touches everything with wonder, flowers, water, bark, even a bee, which goes, okay. You point out the animals you named. She giggles again when you say, hippopotamus. She tries to repeat it. Hippopotty, mouse? You nod. Close enough. At one point, you both sit under a fig tree. The silence is no longer heavy. Now it's companionable. Like the air itself is leaning in, enjoying your first conversation. She asks your name. You shrug. I don't actually have one yet. Ah, she pauses. Want one? One? You tilt your head. Sure, hit me with your best shot. She squints, considers. You look like a mud person. Wow, thanks. She laughs. In a noble way. You grin. Call me Adam then, from the earth. She smiles. I'm Eve. And just like that, the world has two names. You feel it in the air, something new. A pulse, a rhythm, like the garden is humming in tune with your heartbeat. You don't know what's coming. Not the fruit, not the exile, not the arguments about chores. But right now, there is only her. And that's enough. The kind of happy that makes sunlight feel warmer, grass feel softer, and mangoes taste like dessert straight from heaven's fridge. Eve is nearby, humming. She's learning how to braid vines. And honestly, she's better at it than you were after 3 days of trying. You feel proud, impressed, and maybe a little bit threatened. You stretch, yawn, and stroll to the middle of the garden. That's when you see it, the tree. The tree. Tree of knowledge. The one from the don't eat or you'll totally regret it rulebook. Its fruit looks even more delicious today. Plump, glossy, basically posing. And Eve, she's already standing there, with something in her hand. You freeze. She turns. Hey, she says casually, like she's holding a snack, not the universe's most controversial produce. You blink. Is that? She nods. Tastes kinda like pomegranate. Or maybe mango. I can't decide. You look up at the tree, still glowing like a movie prop. You hear nothing but wind, birds, and your own heartbeat. You sure we're allowed? She shrugs. No lightning yet. A pause. You take the fruit. It's warm, heavy. It smells like possibility, and also maybe a mistake. You take a bite, and then everything changes. Fun fact. In most ancient traditions, the forbidden fruit isn't named. Some say apple. Others suggest fig, grape, or even a psychedelic mushroom. Regardless, the real shift isn't the fruit, it's the awareness. You look at Eve, she looks at you. Suddenly, her elbow seems visible. Too visible. Her kneecap, absolutely scandalous. You both turn away, covering yourselves with your arms. She gasps. We were naked. No kidding. You scramble to find anything that can double as clothing. Leaves? Yes. Large ones. Fig leaves. Because apparently, those are the denim of Eden. You fashion a leafy outfit. It's not great. It itches. The belt keeps falling. But it's something. Then comes the sound. Footsteps. Walking through the garden. Familiar. Calm. Too calm. It's him, Eve whispers. You both dive behind a bush, like two kids who broke the cookie jar and are hiding in the pantry. Adam, God calls. You whisper to the bush. Don't answer. Maybe he'll think we're not home. Where are you? You peek out, guilt written across your face like a bad tattoo. I heard you walking, you say, and I was afraid because I was naked. Academic side note, this is the first time in the Bible fear enters the story. Not pain, not punishment, fear. Awareness has a cost. God sighs. Who told you that you were naked? You fumble. No one. Just a vibe. Did you eat from the tree? I told you not to.
You freeze.
This might be the end of mango mornings. You stand there, fig leaves itching, heart racing, eyes avoiding direct divine contact. God just asked you a yes or no question. Did you eat the fruit? You consider honesty, but instead you point. She gave it to me. Eve blinks. Excuse me? You shrug helplessly. It's true. God shifts his gaze. Now it's her turn. So, Eve straightens up, leaf skirt rustling. The serpent tricked me. You nod enthusiastically. Yes, him, snake guy. The serpent, who had been chilling nearby looking smug, suddenly regrets all his life choices. Fun fact. This is the first recorded instance of finger-pointing in human history. Scholars sometimes call it the fall, but really it's more like the deflection. God doesn't yell. He doesn't need to. Disappointment has its own volume. He listens, then speaks. To the serpent, you're cursed. Belly only travel from now on. No more legs. You glance down. Wait, he had legs. Academic sidebar. Some ancient texts and traditions imply the serpent was once upright, possibly even charismatic. Others see it as a symbol, not a zoological fact. Regardless, from here on out, the serpent becomes synonymous with deception. To Eve, you'll still bring life into the world, but it will hurt. Eve stiffens. How bad are we talking? God doesn't answer, which is not comforting. To you, you'll work the ground. It won't be easy. You'll sweat for every bite. You swallow, but I still get mangoes, right? Silence. You look at the trees around you. They still shimmer, but less. The colors are dimmer. The wind is cooler. Something has shifted. Eden feels farther away already, and you haven't even left yet. Then God does something strange. He makes you clothes, actual garments from animal skin. They're warm, durable, better than fig leaves, but they also mean something, a farewell gift, and maybe a consequence.
God walks with you and Eve to the garden's edge.
There's a sword, flaming, spinning. An angel stands guard. You can't come back, God says. Not like this. Eve takes your hand. You squeeze it. You look back once more at the garden, at what was, at what you lost. But beside you stands someone who chose to stay. And somehow, that makes the wilderness ahead a little less terrifying. Because there's nothing to pack. You have the clothes God gave you. You have Eve. You have questions. So many questions. The garden behind you looks the same. Technically, same trees, same river, same golden glow. But it's different now. But you can feel the boundary, like air you can't cross. The warmth is on the other side, the safety, the innocence. You reach for Eve's hand again. She squeezes. You both keep walking. At the edge of Eden stands the angel. Wings like lightning, eyes like fire, sword like a giant flaming blender of divine do not enter. You stop a few feet away. The angel doesn't speak, just nods. Once. That's it. You're officially out. Fun fact. Most ancient texts describe the exit from Eden not just as exile, but as transformation. It's not punishment. It's the start of a new phase. The beginning of responsibility, of mortality, of meaning. You take your first step onto the untamed earth and promptly trip over a rock. Eve snorts. Graceful. You dust off your knee. Symbolic fall. Ahead, it's all wild. Trees with thorns, ground that crunches, air that tastes less sweet. No curated paradise, just raw, untouched world. Academic side note, some scholars argue Eden was never a physical place, but a state of being, an alignment with divine purpose. Losing Eden then wasn't relocation, it was recalibration. You build a shelter. It's terrible. The roof leaks, the walls lean, but Eve finds a mushroom, and you pretend it was all worth it. Night falls harder out here. The stars are colder, the breeze less friendly. But when Eve rests her head on your shoulder, it's enough. You think he'll talk to us again, she whispers. I hope so, you say. Silence. Then a breeze. Then nothing. But in that nothing, a seed of hope. You don't know how to farm, or how babies work, or what those weird howling sounds are, but you'll figure it out. Together, and in the morning, when the sun rises over the edge of this new world, it's not Eden, but it's yours. You never realized how loud the world was until you left Eden. The wind doesn't whisper anymore. It growls. The animals aren't politely curious. They bark, screech, and run away. The sky is still blue, but it feels taller, colder, and the silence, it's the worst. Not peaceful silence, lonely silence. You build things, first a lean-to, then a better lean-to, then a version of the lean-to that doesn't fall down when it rains. Progress. Eve plants seeds. You're not sure if she knows what she's doing, but she hums while she works, and that counts for something. Sometimes you sit on a rock and just Stare. The land stretches forever. No walls, no borders, no divine landscaping. It's raw and wild and full of questions. You start noticing things, patterns in the stars, tracks in the dirt, that certain leaves make your skin itch. Others smell like lemons. Fun fact, some historians believe early humanity's first skill wasn't fire-making or hunting, but observation. Before we invented tools, we invented noticing. One morning, you wake up to find a wolf sniffing your shelter. You freeze. Eve throws a rock. The wolf snarls. You both scream. It runs away. You look at each other. We need a better system. She nods. I vote door. Later that week, it rains for the first time. Not a drizzle. A full, cinematic, drenching storm. You both sit inside your semi-leaky shelter, soaked, shivering, and laughing. We're not dead, you shout over the thunder. Yet, she shouts back. Academic note. The early Genesis narrative shifts here, from mythic to mortal, from cosmic to domestic. The human story begins not in a palace, but in a mud hut, soaking wet and surrounded by bugs. Over time, the rhythm settles. Day becomes work, night becomes rest. The stars return, the land changes color.
You learn how to cut wood, how to shape stone, how to listen to the way the wind warns you before a storm.
It's not Eden, but you're learning to live. One night, by the fire, Eve whispers, "Do you miss it?" You don't have to ask what she means. You stare into the flames, then at her. "No," you say, "because I didn't have you there." She smiles, and in that smile you realize Eden isn't always a place. Sometimes it's a person. The way Eve glows, the way her laughter fills your tiny home, the way her stomach grows, not from fruit, but from life. You're going to be parents. You have no idea what that means. But you're excited, terrified, curious, mostly terrified. When the baby comes, the world changes again. He's loud, red, wrinkly, absolutely perfect. You name him Cain. He learns to walk by holding onto your leg. He learns to talk by mimicking Eve's giggles and your exasperated grunts. He calls a goat Dar, and somehow that sticks. Then comes Abel, quieter, softer. His eyes are big and thoughtful. He watches his brother more than he watches the world. He follows, he listens, he learns. You build them toys from sticks and leaves. They break them immediately. You build more. Welcome to parenting. Time passes. Cain grows strong. Abel grows clever. They start helping with work. You till the land. Cain joins. Eve tends animals. Abel follows. Then come offerings. You taught them that it's good to give back to the one who gave you all this. Cain offers crops. Abel brings meat. One day, the air changes. You don't know how, but you feel it. Cain's offering is rejected. Abel's is not.
You try to talk to Cain.
You did nothing wrong, you say, but maybe just try differently. His eyes darken. Why him? There's no him, Cain. There's just you and how you choose to respond. He doesn't answer. Later, he invites Abel into the field. They don't return together. Fun fact, this moment, Cain and Abel, is the first recorded act of violence in human history. And it wasn't over land, or gold, or territory. It was over being seen. You find Cain alone, dirt on his hands, eyes wide, defiant, and wet. Where is your brother? God asks. Cain shrugs. Am I my brother's keeper? Academic whisper. That line has echoed through centuries because it's still the question, what do we owe each other? Cain is marked, not punished in full, but set apart, protected, even, a consequence, and a mercy. You bury Abel with trembling hands. Eve weeps like the earth is cracking open. And in that pain, you understand something no paradise could have taught you. Loss is part of love, and love is still worth it. Not loud, not sharp, just everywhere. You and Eve move slower, speak less, sleep in shorter bursts. The house feels bigger, colder, like the echoes forgot how to bounce back. Cain is gone, Abel is gone, one by exile, the other by death. What's left? You plant anyway. You fix the roof again. You help Eve boil herbs, though neither of you knows what they're for anymore. Days pass like molasses, but something stirs. Eve hums again, one morning. Just a note or two, barely a whisper. You don't mention it. She starts walking farther into the woods to gather things. You carry the basket, no words needed. Then, one night, she reaches for your hand. "I want to try again," she says. You know what she means, and you're terrified. You want to say, "What if we lose again?" But instead, you just hold her hand tighter. Time stretches, and then there's life. Seth, smaller than his brothers were, quieter, but when he opens his eyes, he stares at you like he knows something ancient. Eve holds him with hands that still remember loss, but also hope. You build a cradle, a real one. No sticks this time, wood, carved smooth. You place him inside, and for the first time in what feels like forever, you sleep through the night. Fun fact, Seth's name means appointed or granted, as if he wasn't just born, he was given. Academic whisper. Some theologians call Seth the restart, not a replacement, but a new branch, a signal that even in grief, stories don't end, they unfold. You teach him to walk again, to speak, to laugh. You catch yourself telling the same bedtime stories you once made up for Abel. They still hurt, but now they comfort too. You carve new tools, you plant new seeds, you dream again. And sometimes, when you sit outside as the stars rise, you feel something you thought was lost forever. Peace, not the innocent kind, but the kind that knows sorrow and still chooses joy. Raising their kids, that's an entirely different game. Seth grows up fast, too fast. One day, he's chasing beetles. The next he's asking where thunder comes from and how long love lasts. You don't have good answers, but you try anyway. He builds his own home, marries, has children, and suddenly you're not just Adam, you're Grandpa Adam, which feels both ridiculous and deeply right. Your tiny world starts to feel bigger again. There's laughter, small feet running through grass, tiny hands tugging at your beard. You invent toys that get immediately broken, songs that get sung too loud, and rules that get broken even faster. You watch Seth teach his children what you once taught him, how to plant, how to share, how to name the stars without needing to own them. Fun fact, ancient oral traditions suggest that early human knowledge was passed by storytelling. You're not just building a family, you're shaping memory. One evening, a granddaughter climbs into your lap and asks, "Did you really name all the animals?" You smile. "Yes." "All of them?" "Well, I might have rushed the last few. That's why we have the word aardvark." She laughs. "That's a funny word." "I know." You tell her about Eden, gently, not the way it ended, but the way it began, the light, the laughter, the moment you met Eve. She listens with wide eyes, then whispers, "Do you miss it?" You pause, and then shake your head. "I miss who I was back then, but I love who I became." Academic whisper. Some scholars believe Adam lived long enough to see many generations, enough to realize that legacy isn't about fame or perfection. It's about passing down what matters. You teach your great-grandkids how to build a fire, not just with sticks, but with patience. How to cook, how to listen when someone's sad and doesn't know how to say it. You teach them that they'll make mistakes, and that's okay. And when they ask if God still speaks to people like he did to you, you say, he does, but now he whispers, and you have to learn how to hear him in silence. They nod, even if they don't fully understand. And as the fire crackles and night falls around your growing family, you feel something deep settle inside you. You were the first man, but now you're also the first memory. Your tools slip, steps slow, the fire takes longer to start, and sometimes you forget why you walked into a room. But the kids remember. They finish your stories when you forget the ending. They laugh at your jokes even when they've heard them 100 times. They ask for your advice even when they already know the answer. You're still needed, just differently. Eve sits beside you more often now. You hold hands the way you used to, back before everything, before fig leaves and thunder and exile. Sometimes you talk, sometimes you just sit. One afternoon, you stare at the sky, clouds drifting slowly, and say, "It's funny." Eve raises an eyebrow. "What is?" "We were so afraid to fall. And now, I think the fall was the beginning." She nods, not like she agrees, but like she's been thinking the same thing for years. Fun fact, some ancient writers described Adam's old age not with regret, but with wonder. He lived long enough to see both pain and beauty spiral into something that felt like meaning. One evening, your oldest grandson helps you outside to sit under the stars. "Do you think they'll remember you?" he asks. You smile. "Not for long. That's how memory works. But we'll tell your story." "That's all that matters," you whisper. "Just tell it well." He nods, quietly, reverently. You look up, the stars blink slowly, like they're listening. Academic whisper. There's a beauty in being finite, in knowing we won't last, but our choices might. But we leave fingerprints on time, not because we're perfect, but because we were here. That night, as you fall asleep beside Eve, you dream. You're back in Eden, not as it was, but how it felt. Warmth, light, laughter. You're walking again. Young, strong, whole. Eve is beside you. The trees don't shimmer, but they don't need to. You're not looking for paradise anymore. Just peace. And you found it. Sunrise. Footsteps. Laughter. Firelight. Sleep. Repeat. You wake up and sometimes forget which grandson is which. They've multiplied. Whole clusters of tiny humans now swarm your house like joyful ants with snack demands. And you're slower, but they wait for you. They walk at your pace. They ask you questions they already know the answers to, just to hear your voice wrap around the words. One day, you tell a story. Not a big one, just a memory. About a bird, a fig, a silly dance Eve once did in the rain. And everyone laughs, not because it's funny, but because you remembered it. And suddenly, you realize, this is legacy. Not statues, not songs, not carved stones. Memory. You notice Seth standing at the edge of the group, quiet, watching. You call him over. He sits beside you, eyes soft. "I dreamed of Eden again," you tell him. He nods. "Was it the same?" "No," you whisper. "Better, because this time we didn't have to leave." He doesn't ask what you mean. Maybe he knows. Fun fact, in some ancient traditions, Eden isn't just behind us. It's ahead, not a lost paradise, but a future restoration, not a return, but a fulfillment. You ask Seth to take over the evening stories. He hesitates, then nods. I don't know all the details, he says. You don't need to. You smile. Just tell them what mattered. That night, he sits where you usually sit. The fire still crackles. The stars still blink. The children still lean forward, eyes wide. And Seth begins. It's not your voice, but it's familiar. And as you listen, your heart slows, not from pain, but from peace. Academic whisper. Every ending is really just a quieter beginning. The final pages don't close the book, they hand it off. Later, when the fire dims and the night deepens, Eve rests her head on your shoulder. You close your eyes and dream again. This time, it's not Eden. It's here. It's here. It's now. It's everything you built, echoing forward. The fire has burned down to soft embers. The night hums gently. Wind through grass, distant owls, a baby fussing 2 tents over. You're awake, but only barely. Eve sleeps beside you. Her breathing is slow, deep, familiar. It's a sound you've known longer than any other. Your body feels heavy. Not in a bad way, more like the weight of a book that's been read, cover to cover. You smile. One by one, your children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, they gather not because they were summoned, but because something in the air told them it's time. They sit quietly. No tears yet, just presence. You open your eyes one last time and see them. All of them. You try to speak, but it's not necessary. They already know. You take Eve's hand. She squeezes, softly, and then you let go, not just of her hand, but of the world. Fun fact, according to some traditions, Adam died peacefully, surrounded by generations, no violence, no drama, just a closing breath, and a memory passed on. Academic whisper. The human story didn't begin in chaos, and it didn't end in despair. It began with love, and ends with legacy. As your eyes close, your final thought isn't Eden. It isn't loss. It isn't even death. It's a child's laughter. A fire is warmth. A whispered story in the dark. And the quiet knowing.
You were here.
And that was enough. Now, take a deep breath. You've walked through the beginning of everything, stepped into the world's first sunrise, stumbled through the first heartbreak, whispered the first poem, and held the first baby born outside of paradise. And maybe, somewhere in all that, you found something familiar, something in Adam's curiosity, something in Eve's courage, something in the laughter of children who keep running, even when the path is hard. This story wasn't just about where we came from. It was about what we carry forward. So tonight, as you drift off, let this thought settle in. You are part of that same story. You are a chapter still being written. You are, in your own way, a garden. Imperfect, beautiful, full of love. So rest now. Let the stars do their slow dance above you. Let your breathing soften. You've heard the story of how it began. And soon, maybe in your own dream, you'll step into the next part. Good night.